Hello, 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 everyone. There we go. Hey, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to our call today of Black LGBTQ Spiritual Leaders for Harris-Walz and other Democrats running for office this election season. My name is Kenny Hutton. I use he, him pronouns, he, him, his pronouns, and I currently serve as the president and CEO of the Center for Black Equity. And of course, this is being done by the CBE Political Action Fund. Why are we here today? Right? We want to take a moment to really center ourselves around spiritual leaders and the impact that faith leaders and the faith community has on this election. I have a few notes I'm going to read from. The faith community has long played a role in presidential elections, mobilizing voters, doing influencing policy discussions, and contributing in other ways, right? Voter mobilization, faith leaders and institutions typically have very large scale voter registration drives, outreach efforts, etc. Black churches have historically advocated for civil rights, voting rights, economic justice, and often rally around social justice issues that candidates that promote racial equity, as well as progressive faith groups. Many faith and many interfaith and liberal religious communities support churches causes such as climate action, LGBTQ plus rights, criminal justice reform, and economic justice, as well as influence policies. While religious institutions are legally restricted from officially endorsing candidates due to the Johnson Amendment, hey, how are you doing there, George? Many individual religious leaders do make personal endorsements using sermons, social media, and religious gatherings to voice opinions like we're doing here tonight, right? The Black church definitely plays pivotal role in especially some of our swing states, such as Georgia and North Carolina, which we know are very, very, very critical for this election, as well as a number of interfaith coalitions. So I'm going to stop here. I'm not going to keep on going. I know y'all aren't joining to hear from me, so I'm going to go ahead and write us in. So the first thing we want to do is we want to bring in an individual, Reverend Dr. Jose Ramon, who is the chairman of the Center for Black Equity and also a minister of the United Palace of Spiritual Arts. Just to get us started, Reverend Doctor, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, sweet brother, and good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. I'm Reverend Dr. Jose Miguel Roman. And I'd like, before we begin our work together, we're going to take a few minutes to pray together, to spend a little bit of time centering ourselves in the divine. So I respectfully ask you to enter your personal prayer space. If you're comfortable, please bow your head and close your eyes as we pray together. I invite you to consider the setting the intention to be fully present and committed to participating in tonight's dialogue. Set the intention to be here tonight with an open heart and an open mind. Bring into your awareness at this point the divine presence of your understanding. And before this community of service, surrender to the divine, where all is possible. This evening, we begin our work in the name of God, the great spirit of love, truth, and life, whose Holy Spirit brings us and binds us to each other and connects us to all creation. We begin by praying for all the people affected by the Hurricane Milton. May God grace these suffering people with divine healing. May God help them all, and may help be quickly provided and their suffering comforted. Dear God, we assemble here tonight because as servant leaders of our people, we recognize that these are unprecedented times, and we need your grace to take righteous action. During these times, we must be prophets of truth in a culture of lies and deception. We must be advocates for justice while facing a politics of destruction and degradation. We must be activists for human dignity in a world filled with inhumanity and moral cowardice. We must protect civil rights women's rights, the rights of LGBTQI people, the rights of the disabled, workers, and all the forgotten and marginalized and mistreated in a nation where too many remain committed to white supremacy. We acknowledge that this moment in American history is a reckoning. Today, we confront institutionalized structures of oppression, war, moral chaos, political hypocrisy, economic injustice, and ecological degradation. We come together, sweet Lord of love, because we acknowledge that these evils are born of historic privileges for which elites will fight and struggle to preserve and expand. We unite because we recognize our sacred responsibility to be your hands, dear God, in this broken world. Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz are champions of many of our values. Better than any other candidate standing for national office today, they promote and they promise to serve workers and the marginalized, to advocate for freedom and the rule of law, and to promote democracy and peace. We ask you, Almighty God, to bless and protect them as they continue the struggle for the soul of this imperfect democracy. And so, as we close our prayer tonight, sweet Master of our soul, we ask and seek for your grace and guidance as we organize our communities to come out this November 5th to vote for justice, equity, human dignity, and democracy. Even a democracy as imperfect as our own is worthy of preserving and improving. We come together because we believe that this imperfect democracy can be transformed and perfected in time, but only through our actions, struggles, and sacrifices. Sweet God, sweet Lord, sweet Spirit, we sometimes grow tired of the fight, and that is when we need you most to lift us and empower us to continue the struggle. So we ask you, Almighty God, for the wisdom to serve successfully, the compassion to serve with vision, and the perseverance to serve without fail. Protect, guide, and inspire us, dear God, to continue the sacred work of human dignity. And so together we say, Amen, Ashe, and so it is.
Oh, he went off so fast. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming in and centering us. And really getting our minds together for this conversation we're going to have tonight. We have an amazing group of individuals from across the country, right? From the South, from the Mid-Atlantic, from the West Coast, all over joining us to talk. But of course, this is a political conversation we're going to have tonight, a political discussion, a political call, right? So, of course, I want to introduce, before I bring up the next individual, they're a prominent leader in the fight for LGBTQ equality, especially when it comes to the Black community, serving as the former president, CEO of the Center for Black Equity, now our president emeritus, who's been a vocal advocate for increasing Black LGBTQ representation in politics, serving as the longest running caucus chair of the DNC's LGBTQ caucus. Pioneering the Black Pride movement, supported, and as you've heard a lot, has really fathered a lot of the prides we visit and we attend throughout the year that has sprung up to be a movement around the world. Key figure in promoting HIV prevention and awareness in Black LGBTQ plus communities. I bring to you President Emeritus and Chair of the Democratic National Committee's LGBTQ caucus, Mr. Earl D. Fowlkes Jr.
Thank you very much for those kind words, Kenya. And thank you, Reverend Dr. Roman, for those words. I feel like Ralph Abernathy following Martin Luther King on the pulpit, and I hate that. So why are we here? We're here because we believe in democracy. We're here because we believe that we have a role in helping to select the next president of the United States. In my 12 years as president, as chair of the DNC LGBTQ Caucus, I've been pushing the DNC to recognize the Black queer vote as a distinctive population that has to be spoken to and brought into the big tent that we always claim we have. And this year is so gratifying for the first Black LGBTQ call of ministers and faith leaders in our community. So I'm anxious to hear the wonderful things that are going to be said today. But more importantly, you are responsible for helping us, the Democratic Party and progressive groups, progressive people, to getting out the vote, especially in Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and other battleground states. We need you. That's why we're having this call. Thank you very much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you. Actually, bring Earl back up for me. I want Earl to go yet. Want to just chat with you for a little bit, Earl. Just take a moment before we go into our speakers. Since you have been, very connected to politics and to this movement and to this great groundbreaking historic moment, right? I think I want to start off by talking about, maybe not talking about, emphasizing, because I think we talk about it. What's at stake right now?
What's at stake is our democracy. We know that if the other side wins, that they have talked about changing our basic freedoms. We're a republic where the many are ruled by the few. And the few becomes, if the few are people like Donald Trump, we're going to be in a sorry position. Women's rights will be abridged. LGBTQ rights, the rights of immigrants and migrants, the rights of so many people are going to be impacted because the Drakian laws that will be passed and certified by a very, very conservative Supreme Court. We need to have a Democratic president and vice president. We need a Democratic Senate, and we need a Democratic House of Representatives so that we can protect the rights that many of us have fought very hard to maintain. That's what's at stake at this election.
Thank you. Thank you. You touched on a number of things, and one of the things that I'm very proud that we're able to do with the CBE Political Action Fund is we created a Black LGBTQ fact sheet about Harris-Walz, right? Because there's a Black fact sheet, there's an LGBTQ fact sheet, but as you can see at the bottom of the screen, we have a Black LGBTQ plus fact sheet. All you have to do to see it is go to cbepoliticalactionfund.com, and you'll be able to see it, read it, really learn and see and understand how this administration, this potential incoming administration, is really positioned and how they support us, have been, and are promising to continue to support us as Black LGBTQ people. So we're not just a vote, but know that we matter. All right. So I'm going to move on to our next person. Earl, do you mind hanging out with us for the rest of the evening?
Of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So our next speaker, their bio reads, for over 2 decades of experience in HIV prevention and advocacy for LGBT communities, as CEO of Allyson Hope, he leads efforts focused on PrEP care, rapid start treatment, and providing supportive services to people living with HIV with a clear mission to end the HIV epidemic in the greater Houston area. As a minister of health and wholeness for the Fellowship of Affirming Churches, working to educate affirming and inclusive pastors on HIV, mental health, and LGBTQ+ issues, empowering them to serve better their congregations and communities. Founder of Brothers Speaking, a platform that provides a safe space for African-American gay and bisexual men to discuss issues such as serodiscordant relationships, spirituality, and sexuality. This initiative started with a town hall that attracted over 300 participants in Houston, Texas. As the former HIV program manager of City of Houston and current CEO of Allyson Hope, this next speaker spearheaded an impactful public health campaigns like the I Am Life campaign, focused on HIV prevention for Black and Hispanic LGBTQ+ communities, and the Start Now program aimed at rapid HIV treatment and viral suppression. I bring to you, everyone, Reverend Jeffrey Campbell, all the way from Houston. Hello. Oh, you're a mute. You're a mute.
I'm not on mute now.
Oh, there you go.
Kenya, good evening, Earl. Thank you both for having me this evening to be a part of this conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. So what I want to do, I want to start off, we're really giving opportunity, right, to talk. We have discussions all the time. We have all kinds of structured things. But what I want this today to do, we're going to give you some time to really come on and talk to everybody. Talk to the other faith leaders that are listening. Talk to community members that are listening, because people listen to their faith leaders, right? They listen to these reverends, bishops, ministers. They listen to you, all of you. So I really want you to talk to the people as someone that's living in Houston, Texas, right? About what this election means, and why we should get out and vote for this these folks and all the other people running up and down ballot around the country.
Yeah. So thank you so much for this opportunity again. So, I've been voting. I voted my first time when I was 18 years old. So this year will be my 40th year voting. And I, of course, because I'm one generation outside of segregated school systems and Jim Crow and so forth, I know the stories. I didn't experience a lot of it, but I know it. And so I know the importance of voting. I know the importance of being involved in civic activities. My grandmother, my mother's mother, was involved in my little small hometown of Cuero, Texas. She was part of the NAACP, and she was part of a movement to get schools integrated in my hometown. And that's one of the things that she is remembered for. But when I think from my space of existence as a Black man who identifies as a same gender loving man, as a gay man, as a queer man, in this state of Texas, I'm also a minister. And just a few Sundays ago, I had the opportunity to preach to the folks at Resurrection Metropolitan Community Church here in Houston. And I spoke from Nehemiah chapter 6. And, without preaching it all again, one of the things, or several of the things that I'd like to raise up, is that Nehemiah had a heart for his people. He had a heart that showed. He wore his feelings on his sleeve so much that the king in the country where he was exiled could see his brokenness about the condition of his homeland. And the king sent him back with a degree of privilege, with letters, with supplies to go back to Jerusalem and rebuild the wall of around the city to protect the city from the enemies that were consistently attacking them. And in Nehemiah chapter 6, when there were a few enemies, Sanballat and Tobiah and Gershom, and those who've read the Bible and read the book of Nehemiah know those names. They kept trying to get Nehemiah to stop the work and come down and talk to them. And Nehemiah said, I cannot come down from the wall because I have a great work to do. And then finally, Nehemiah prayed a very simple prayer: God, strengthen my hands. And so when I think about from a ministerial perspective and from a preaching perspective, I think about what we should all be asking God, Allah, whomever it is that we pray to, that our hands would be strengthened in this season, because we are indeed fighting a battle against the enemy. However you shape it up, we are fighting against the enemy. We are fighting against individuals who are determined to keep individuals who are minority by whatever ways we're minority, gender identity, sexual orientation, ethnicity, race. They are fighting to keep us as second and third class citizens. And so we have to have strong hands, and we have to have minds that are filled with wisdom to be able to really see the difference in a Kamala Harris and a Walz ticket versus the other ticket, and understand, because this is what I look at it, because I think one of the things you ask on the sheet here was the importance of voting for the Harris-Walz ticket. And the importance is, look at it. Look at the history. Look at what we experienced during the 4 years of the Trump era. Look at all of the things that have happened since that time that were put in place in those 4 years. Look at how those things, and even Project 2025, are being set up to set us back. And so as people of color, as LGBTQ individuals, regardless of our race or ethnicity, we have to vote the ticket that has our best interests at heart. And that even includes, that's about, I do this work of HIV prevention on a daily basis. So we have to look at what are those tickets wanting to do, willing to do. And I know that during the Trump era, when he was president, there was this rollout of the Ending the HIV Epidemic campaign. That was very tactical. That was very strategic. But it really wasn't for the people. It wasn't for the people. It was for the person. And so I think in the debate between Harris and Trump, Vice President Harris laid it out very well, that she is a person who is for the people. And that's who we need in office. We need somebody in office who's going to be for us and not for themselves.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Let me bring up Earl and see if Earl has any questions, anything he wants to add. Hey, Earl. Nope, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Let me unmute you. Let me see it. Nope,
Jeffrey is so articulate, and he summed up the sum of why we're here and what we have to do. Absolutely. Very succinctly. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Feel free to hang out with us backstage if you like. But thank you. Thank you. So that was great. That was a great way.
I do want to say this because this is one of the questions that you had here. Why voting Democrat up and down the ballot is crucial. Let me tell you, what was it, 4 years ago here in Texas when Beto O'Rourke was running against Ted Cruz. And although O'Rourke did not win, there are so many other Democrats that are in office right now in the state of Texas because Democrats, and I would even say independents, went in and they voted a straight Democratic ticket. And although Beto didn't win, there are just a number of Democrats who did win those races because we voted like that. And as Earl said earlier about what we need in Congress, we need a Congress that matches the values and the forethought of the president and the vice president. That's what our Congress needs to look like. We don't need to have another Democrat president that's going to have to fight a Republican Congress. That's why it's important to vote down ballot. And it's also important for us, I support the Victory Fund. And as we look around the country and as we look at LGBTQ candidates for various positions, know who they are.
Yeah.
Now, I am one. I'm not going to vote for you just because.
Right.
But I'm going to vote for you because I know who you are. I know what you stand for, and I know what you believe in. And when it matches what I believe in, you got my vote.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that together, because it is important, right? Because you don't want a president that's going to have to fight every day. And I think folks don't think about that, right? We get so caught up in voting for president, we don't think about these other positions, that if we are strategic with how we vote, we can make our president do the things that we want, things that they promise. But when they have to fight opposition, half of the time they're fighting, we don't see the progress and we get mad at the president. But it's like, we didn't do our part to set the system up for the president to win. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. All right. So the next person that I'm going to bring up for us this evening was actually one of the first, if not the first person to call me and put the idea in my head to create a call like this. All right. To do this. This was right after our Black LGBT community and allies call. She called me and says, Kenya, I want to get on a call. We need to pull something together. And I said, I got you. Right. So we started putting together. So I'm going to start doing the introduction. Founder and pastor of Empowerment Liberation Cathedral of Washington, D.C., and the founder president of Empowerment Justice Center, a nonprofit focused on justice and advocacy, holding multiple advanced degrees, including a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, from Howard University, a Master of Divinity and a Doctor of Ministry from United Theological Seminary, and a PhD from Wayland Baptist Theological Seminary, alongside her work as a realtor and real estate investor. Talk about a Renaissance woman, right? Like, you do everything. A passionate advocate for justice, actively involved in voter outreach, organizing with Win with Black Women in Maryland, serving on the DC Mayor's Interfaith Council, and engaging in voter registration and political action through her church and community initiatives. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Bishop Allyson Abrams. Hello there,
Good
Bishop.
evening. Good evening, Kenya. I'm so glad that you put this together, because you know I was going to keep calling you until you brought us together. So I'm so glad to be here tonight. And to our chair emeritus, Earl Fowlkes, good evening. So can I just start? I got a lot.
Go.
Okay, so let me just start out. I've been pastoring over 20 years. I've always been aware of the need to talk to those in the congregation about what is at stake during elections. But this election is a little different. This election is one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime. Now, some of y'all have been around longer than others, but it's still the most consequential one. So we must realize that it is urgent for everybody who qualifies to vote to exercise your right to vote in this particular election. Now, I'm speaking for myself. Let me make sure I make that statement. And so I have to ask, do we realize that this is the third election since the gutting of the Civil Rights Act of 1965? And so there are many who have made it their purpose to minimize our rights and to miscarry justice as often as possible. And so you can't watch the news or read the news and not see how the miscarriage of justice continues to happen each and every day. Anytime the Supreme Court votes to say a president could have immunity to all the crimes he commits while in office, lets us know that we need a change in this country, and we need that change to come now. So as faith leaders, I believe we are charged to help the parishioners to understand their inalienable right and what happened to our ancestors who fought. They fought even unto death, some of them, to get us to have the right to vote. So if you are a preacher, you must preach it from the mountaintop that we cannot sit by idly and pamper our voter apathy. We cannot sleep with our disappointments and pain. We cannot ride with our discouragement. We must let our voices be heard, and the way that people hear us is at the ballot. Somebody hear me tonight. The way that people hear you is not by you protesting. Yes, we love a good protest, but it's not by you protesting. It's by you getting out and going to vote and what you speak at the ballot. That's how they hear you. And so we need to make sure that they hear us on November 5th. We need to make sure they hear us with all of those who are going to the early voting booths. And we need to make sure they hear us with all of those who mailing in your ballots. So people of God, we must rise to the occasion and take ourselves, our family and our friends, our neighbors, and whoever else we can get to the poll, early voting or on election day. We're encouraging everybody to early vote because that's going to make all the difference in the world. But as spiritual leaders, we must encourage our voters to also educate themselves. One of the things I did when I was a pastor in Detroit is we did a lot of voter education. We want people to educate themselves on the facts, especially since we have a candidate that prides himself, and we know who that is, on selling untruths to audiences everywhere. So we must stop the bleeding in our communities, stop the harm in our communities, stop the violence and the promotion of untruths. It's amazing how we just share stuff on social media. We haven't fact checked anything. And so let's begin to fact check before we share these things on social media. Let's take it upon ourselves to make sure our members have access to candidate records. I believe that's important too, Kenya, and what their platforms are. The people who listen to us as pastors, as leaders, as overseers and bishops, they listen to us on our platforms. They listen to us in the pews. They listen to us in the public square. They deserve to be able to make an educated decision when they go out to vote. And so we can direct them, if we don't have the information, direct them to the Democratic websites and other websites and other organizations who support the Democrats. And so I stress to you tonight, we cannot just vote when the president is on the ticket. Yes, we love to go out and say which presidential candidate we're voting for, but we must vote in all elections. We got to vote for the judges. Do you know the judges are directly going to impact your life if you ever get into any kind of trouble? And so you don't want to judge who is I was about to say a trumper, but let me find out what else, another word. You don't want to judge who supports another candidate, okay? And so judges, city council persons, state reps, senators, county execs can cause havoc in your lives. We must vote for these whenever they are on the ticket. That's why you got to read the whole ticket. And don't forget to flip on the back of the ballot, because oftentimes there are things there that you need to vote for. And so we want to be sure to vote for the candidate who's concerned about us. All right. Every time I look around, I don't see but one candidate who is concerned about those in the LGBT community. Every time I look around, I don't see but one candidate who's concerned about the allies. Every time I look around, this is just Bishop Abrams, I don't see but one candidate who's concerned about people of color. I don't see but one candidate who are concerned about those who are differently able. I don't see but one candidate who is concerned about those who are looking to create families and they may have to create them differently. Okay. And that candidate is VP Kamala Harris. So it's important to talk about her platform. What has she accomplished? What is her record? What did she do while she was a senator? What has she accomplished while she was a vice president? Okay. And what is her platform for president? It's important to vote down the ballot. We've heard that all night. We're going to keep hearing it. For those who directly will impact or represent our communities, our city, okay, our county. So no longer can we just rely on our grandmothers. Y'all know, we always know our grandma's going to go and vote. We can't just rely on our grandmothers, grandfathers, aunts, and uncles to vote. We have to take on the responsibility of ensuring that this election goes the way it needs to go. And so we cannot continue to be bamboozled by untruths from the other presidential candidate who is always spewing out untruths. we must look at the impact that this election will not just have on us, but on our children and their children and their children. Because some of the things that the former president did, we're going to be dealing with for the next 20 years. So we don't want to have it to go into 40, 60 years. And so let's stop thinking that this election is not in our hands. I came simply tonight to tell you, now I'm at a conference. Kenya, I told them I'm in Memphis for a conference, but I wanted to make sure I got on tonight. So I came tonight to tell you, you could be the deciding vote for this election. And so I'm glad that y'all have asked me what's on the line. And I'm almost done, Kenya. I know I'm over time. You know you can't give a Black preacher 5 minutes. Okay, so women's lives are on the line. Black lives are on the line. Education is on the line. The U.S. Constitution is on the line. Y'all know what Trump has said he was going to do with the Constitution on the first day. Freedom is on the line. Democracy is on the line. Healthcare is on the line. Our children are on the line. Dignity is on the line. LGBT lives are on the line. Marriage equality is on the line. Prescription drugs are on the line. Hope is on the line. Peace is on the line. Love is on the line. And get this, your life as you know it is on the line. So I came to tell you, get involved, even if you door knock for 2 hours on Saturdays and Sundays, that's making a difference. Get involved, even if you take an hour and call voters via phone banking on Saturdays and Sundays, that's making a difference. Get involved, even if you go and just help register voters or tell people where they can go and be registered to vote. Get involved, participate with the Democratic Convention. As a clergy leader, pastor, overseer, bishop, or minister, you are tasked to get those that God has given you charge over, and even those that God didn't give you charge over, that you just know, to get them involved and make sure they get out and vote. Vote the entire ticket. It's important to vote the entire Democratic ticket because they have you in mind. Thank you so much, Kenya, for the extra time. I know Earl is shaking his head somewhere, but thank you so much for the extra time.
Oh, no. First of all, thank you. Like, you took us to church. That was amazing. Thank you for taking time out of the conference to be with us this evening. You hit us so many things, right? Like, our lives are literally on the line, right? Our lives are literally on the line. It's so important.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad you mentioned something that we actually have coming up this Sunday is phone banking. We are having Black LGBTQ phone bank. Let me see if I can put it up on the screen for you. Sorry, my allergies are been wearing me out today.
Look, we call people every Tuesday, so that's important. Yes.
There you go. Yeah, we have a good day for Black LGBTQ folks. It's just going to be all Black LGBTQI folks coming on, whether you know how to phone back, whether you don't know how to phone back. Come on, we're going to give you a training, and we're going to get together, and we're going to really start calling some of these swing states. I want to bring up Earl real quick to see if Earl had anything, because I'm filled, right? So I want to bring up Earl.
All I can say is thank you, Bishop. You made a very, very important point. The bottom line, we are on the line.
We are on the line.
We are on the line. And thank you for making that point clear. You're a strong advocate for justice and peace and love in our community. And hopefully this will help push Vice President and Governor Walz across the line.
Yep, because that's what we want to do. We just push them over the line.
Absolutely. Look,
absolutely.
It's already, I heard it. It was on the tip of your tongue. You was about to say president. You was about to say President Kamala Harris. I
don't want to jinx. I don't want to jinx.
Yes,
I've done this 8 years ago. I don't want to be a jinx.
Thank you so much.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. So next up on our list, we have all the way from the West Coast, the executive director of POCAN, a Seattle-based organization dedicated to promoting health equity and uplifting marginalized communities. With over 30 years of blending his passion for healthcare and ministry to fight for the rights of the LGBTQ individuals and push for social transformation, a proud Black gay man, Bishop Sawyer has championed civil rights through his work, now serving as the second assistant presiding bishop of the United Progressive Pentecostal Church Fellowship. Please allow me to bring onto the stage Bishop Stephen Sawyer. Hey, how are you, Bishop?
Thank you, Kenya. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. And special thank you to Earl, our chairman emeritus, for all the phenomenal work he has done And to you, my beloved family in faith, it is just good to be here tonight and to be with you, particularly at this time and this period in history. We know that tonight we're here for the purposes beyond politics. We are here to act on our faith and to take a stand for justice and equality. You see, that's what's on the line in this race, right? This election season is about putting our faith in action and standing strong at the polls. You know, James 2:17 says, faith without action is dead at being alone. You know, this scripture calls us to do more than just believe. It calls us to live out that belief in word and in deed. In this season, that means voting. That means voting for health equity in our community. That means voting for housing security in our community. That means voting to advance our freedoms and civil liberties and not allowing them to be eroded. Our actions as people of faith are critical to the survival of our people and to our communities. And we have to use our faith as a force for justice by supporting leaders who reflect the values of compassion, equity, and truth. This year, you're voting for the Harris-Walz ticket and Democrats down the ballot is essential for our commitment to these values. And together, our collective action is a powerful force for change. You know, Proverbs 31:9 says that speak up for those that can't speak for themselves. And when we vote, we speak up for our communities, especially those communities that's most affected by injustice. The Harris-Walz ticket understands the importance of equity and healthcare. They understand the importance of racial justice for both racial and LGBT folks. They are the only candidates that are standing up for those marginalized by our society. You know, their platform aligns with our call to protect the vulnerable and to support meaningful change in our communities. Voting for leaders who understand the meaning of equity and justice. Voting for leaders who understand how to fight for justice is a powerful way to make our voices heard for communities and to help us be empowered. Voting democratically down the line is a way that we can show equity, the way that we can put our faith in action to ensure that we have leaders working together comprehensively to progress us to the next level, both locally and nationally. You see, politics supporting economic justice, their policies support education and housing and healthcare. These are the things that we need to stand for as people of faith. Yes, voting for Democratic candidates across the board will strengthen the commitment to change. Let us not forget that we also want to support our fellow brothers and sisters, LGBT community and queer folks that are running for office across the country. It's so important that we vote democratically down the line, but we also vote for individuals who have our best interests at heart. Individuals who are voting for representation, inclusion, and justice. And when we uplift leaders who know our struggles and are willing to fight for policies and to embrace all identities, all of our stories, and all of our communities, we can make this country a stronger place. Tonight, I'm asking you to commit to doing three things. One, to pray. Pray for our nation that we may choose leaders who work with integrity and compassion. Two, prepare by ensuring that you, your family, your church community, and your friends have a voting plan to vote down the ticket. And preparing by sharing this call and others like it and supporting candidates who are aligned with justice, compassion, and equity. Romans 12:21 reminds us, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Voting is our chance to overcome through our choices, our courage, and our faith in action. Thank you so much. I'm just so glad to be here.
Come on now, we are having church tonight. Thank you so much for that. Bishop Sawyer, you said some important things. One thing, having a plan to vote. And I think sometimes we'll think about that. And we have to start by checking your voter registration. Check to make sure you were one of those people that was purged. We have a number of states that purged voters, right? What's popped up on the screen is visit the CBE Political Action Fund.com. Check out our voter hub. You can learn how to check your vote. Request mail-in ballots. A little too late right now for some places, but request your ballots. If you're not registered, you can still register in some spaces, right? It's very important. It's very important to make sure you have that plan. Thank you very much. Chairman Fowlkes, I'm gonna bring you up.
I want to thank Bishop Sawyer for reminding us of who we're voting for.
Yes.
I've had the opportunity to speak to both Vice President Harris and Governor Walz, and they're two of the most progressive people I've ever met, and they're probably two of the most progressive candidates ever to run for president of the United States.
Yeah.
We need them in office. It's essential that we are going to turn our corner around, turn this country from the hate-based politics that's been developing the last few years to compassionate-based, bottom line, progressive-based candidates that we need to turn our country around and to lift up those people who need to be lifted up in our society and not forgotten and pushed aside. Thank you for reminding us of who we're voting for.
Yes, we have to vote because our lives do depend on it.
We know we say it all the time, but people don't realize that our lives really depend on this election. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So for our next speaker, we have read a bit about their background. This person is an amazing individual. I'm sure you know who they are, right? Our next speaker has a background in social justice and faith. She has a strong foundation in public health, LGBTQ plus rights, and faith leadership, serving as an ordained minister with the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries, TFAM, and the National Administrator of Trans States of TFAM Ministry. In addition to her leadership, they are actively involved in First Congregational UCC in Birmingham, Alabama, and is completing her member in discernment process with the United Church of Christ. She is also a proud parent and grandparent, emphasizing her dedication to family and community. As the first transgender woman of color to hold a leadership position as the Alabama State Director of the Human Rights Campaign, HRC, highlighting her commitment to inclusivity and equality within the organization, I bring to you Reverend Carmarion D. Anderson-Harvey. Welcome.
Well, hello there. Hello there. Hello there. I think I'm experiencing a little delay, but we're going to make it work. We're going to make it work. How are you? This is just amazing. And all the speakers before me and all those that have one of the highest office in the church. I saw my sister Bishop Abrams, who just really just stirs something up in me. She knows how to do it. And all the other speakers before me. But thank you so much for this opportunity and for making this space. Can I just be real, if you don't mind?
Yes, please.
Okay. I love Black space, and I work for HRC. And when I have an opportunity to be in Black space, I jump on top of it. But great conversation thus far. Great conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not even going to hold the folks. They want to hear from you. So I'm going to give you your time to go ahead and let everybody know, what's up, what's going on, what's at stake.
Absolutely. So, listen, I know we have faith leaders on here. I probably got some friends. If we're not friends, we're friends now. And to my siblings, one, it's an honor to be before you on this evening to discuss one of my favorite topics. And I'm going to center this around equality because that is my life's work. And there is no better candidate that I must say than none other than Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz. Throughout Kamala Harris' career, she has consistently advocated for equality and justice. I want to just go down history as a senator, as an attorney general, and now as our vice president, who is already on the job. I want y'all to get that, okay? She's already doing the work. She has fought tirelessly for the rights of all people, especially those of us that are LGBTQ+. Her record speaks for itself, and her commitment to ensure that every individual, regardless of gender identity, your sexual orientation, whatever your race is, your background, everyone has an opportunity to live freely and authentically and unwaveringly. And this is what we find in Vice President Kamala Harris. With her proven track record for advancing LGBTQ plus equality and her advocacy, her years of advocacy, Vice President Harris during her time as district attorney in San Francisco, if you remember, she created the hate crime unit focusing on prosecuting bias-related violence against us, against the LGBTQ plus community. Her leadership as in the Senate, Harris also made equality a priority. She always stood on the right side of heaven. Oh, come on, somebody. I feel like I'm going to church now. The right side of heaven in regards to civil rights and human rights, that we all have equal rights. As Attorney General of California, Vice President Harris also played a critical role in defending marriage equality. If you remember Proposition 8, the ballot initiative that sought to ban same-sex marriage that was passed, it was our Vice President, Kamala Harris, who refused to defend it in court. She believed that no law should deny people the right to marry who they love. Her leadership contributes to this legislative of same-sex marriage nationwide. I just need someone to say amen, because some people have benefited under my sound of my voice of being married to their same-gender loving partner, or those that are in our gender spectrum community to be legally married. But since becoming Vice President, Harris has continued to be the force to be reckoned with in LGBT equality, making this administration the most pro-equality in the nation. And Kamala Harris will continue that moving forward. Do you remember that they signed the Respect for Marriage Act? Do you remember them implementing administrative rules to safeguard our LGBTQ youth from discrimination and bullying in school? How about strengthening the protection for LGBTQ plus individuals in healthcare and in our foster care? And how about the history of appointing over 200 LGBTQ plus leaders to positions across government, including federal judges, amen, ensuring that representation exists in every facet of leadership. And as you can see, her leadership is not just rhetoric, my friends. It's about action. She believes in the policies not only that affirms the dignity of our community, LGBTQ plus community, us. She believes in us, and she actively worked to protect our rights and uplift our voices. Looking ahead, in just 25 more days until the presidential election, we face a choice that will determine the course of our nation for years to come. Now, we know the threat posed by a candidate like Donald Trump, who seeks to roll back progress we've made. You understand the Project 2025 plan will eliminate my community, the transgender community, from serving in the military, restrict healthcare access for transgender youth and families, erase the LGBTQ plus community and representation in schools. His agenda is clear. It is to divide the LGBTQ plus community and take away our freedom when we fought so hard to secure them. And that's why Vice President Harris is the choice for our Democratic Party. That's why she's the choice to be our next president of the United States of America, because she has fought tirelessly to ensure that her fierce advocacy doesn't go unnoticed, but more importantly, to make sure we're centered in our visibility and in our truth. So if you don't know already, Vice President Harris is a different person than Trump himself. Her leadership speaks volume because she is prepared. She has the history. She is already in the office. Come on, somebody. And so we stand with her. We stand firm against any attack that will strike our rights away, as the conservatives want to see it. She will continue to fight against those that try to demonize and discriminate against the transgender individuals. She will continue to ensure that our youth, our babies of the LGBTQ plus community, continue to have access to life-saving and affirming health care. She will protect families from discriminatory policies that includes love and acceptance and not hatred, that is dividing this nation, but in essence, she is going to provide her leadership to bring us all together. And so as people of faith and conscience, it is our moral responsibility to support a leader whose values is about equality, whose morals is about equality, who understands the importance of justice for all people, and who actively fight for the marginalized and those that are least of us. So Vice President Harris has always stood on the right side of justice. And in her, we find a candidate who is not only supporting us as LGBTQ+, but also everyone, because she believes that everyone is equal. So again, in 25 days, the election is more than just about politics. It's about choosing a leader like Kamala Harris, who sees the humanity in all people, who will fight to ensure that everyone, no matter who they are or who they love or what seat they sit in, that we are all receiving equal access. In Vice President Harris, we have a champion for equality. Her record, leadership, and vision for the future have shown us that she is the right and only choice to lead the nation forward. She's not only the best pro-equality candidate or the LGBTQ supported in the race, but she is also the leader we need to continue the fight of justice, dignity, and respect for all. So I have a call to action for you this evening. It is to appoint and anoint and deputize each of you to stand with me, to stand with the Human Rights Campaign, stand with all of those that's on this right side of heaven that want to see change in this nation, for us to be able to be treated as humans and be treated equally. That's in President Harris for our next president of the United States of America. The future of equality depends on it. Your vote depends on it. Together, together, together. And guess what? Take somebody with you. Take your mama, take the daddy, take the auntie, the brother, take the chosen family. Take somebody with you and let us make a difference for the radical change, the radical justice, and for everyone that deserve equality for all. Let me leave you with this. It's a word from the Christian text. God told the prophet in the book of Habakkuk 2:2. Are we reading the word, saints? In 2:2, Habakkuk, to write the vision and make it plain, so those who read it will understand and run with the knowledge of it at the appointed time. Well, friends, let me just declare that this is the appointed time, and everything is at stake right now. And Vice President Harris is prepared and ready. It's time to support her victory in November. So let's move forward with determination and faith, knowing that we can and will make a difference together. I thank you for this time, and may God bless you all on this journey of voting in faith.
Thank you. Thank you. You came here and gave us, as someone said, Pastor Eunice Coleman, you gave us the data, right? It wasn't, you didn't give an emotional appeal. You gave us the data. Facts are facts and will always be facts, right? This is an administration for us, so we need to vote as such. Let's bring up Earl to see if Earl has anything he wants to add.
I want to thank Reverend Anderson-Harvey for living her truth.
Absolutely, 100%.
And explaining her truth. I was watching baseball. I love baseball. I was watching a baseball playoff game a few days ago, and I was shocked to see anti-trans ads during a Major League Baseball playoff game. And there were 5 of them. I counted them. The first one I thought was, okay, that's stupid. But then the other 5, we are going to elect someone who's going to protect our rights and defend our rights. Somehow that party, the opposition, believes by attacking the transgender community is their ticket to victory.
Yeah.
We have to prove them wrong. We have to prove them wrong. Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. All right. So next up, we have a next speaker. Ooh, I'm sitting here like, yeah, and I'll share what I'm thinking before we close. The next speaker was raised in a small Baptist church in Washington, D.C., where he experienced the unconditional love of God from a young age. However, after his pastor's death and encountering a new leader who was hurtful, he left the church until he met Bishop Kwabani Cheeks and becoming a founding member of Inner Light UFC in 1993. After being ordained as a deacon and later as a minister, moving to New York City, where he served at the Liberation in Truth UFC, he was then called by Archbishop Bean to establish UFC New Brunswick, where he pastored for 12 years before merging that work with LIT UFC to co-pastor the Unity Fellowship Church, NewArk, for the last 12 years. This Sunday, Bishop-elect Taylor will be ordained and elevated to the office of bishop, marking a significant milestone in his spiritual and pastoral journey. Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Bishop-elect Kevin E. Taylor. Oh, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Unmuted. There I am.
There
Good
you go.
evening. Good evening. Good evening to you, King Kenya, to King Earl, to the royalty of family gathered this evening, and to the body of love that is the Center for Black Equality. Let me just dive in, shall I? So we have some space at the end. I am so blessed to be with you all this evening, so much so that I'm joining you from our 42nd annual National Holy Convocation in Riverside, California, and I'm from Newark, New Jersey, where, as Kenya just said, I will be consecrated to and ordained into the office of bishop on this Sunday. To be in a civilized conversation, we don't talk about politics or religion. That's what we're told. So how powerful is it that we are gathered here tonight? As a young man of 27 years old, I was present at Benjamin Banneker Field in Washington, D.C., across the street from Howard University, for the very first Black LGBTQ pride, Black gay pride in the nation. We want to believe that we are all alike and that birds of a feather flock together. That's why we don't want to have these uncomfortable conversations about religion and politics. We don't want to have these conversations, but the chickens are coming home to roost in this election. We don't want to have these conversations because these conversations ruffle feathers, And when the feathers fly, you can tell the difference between pigeon feathers and dove feathers. You can tell the difference between eagle feathers and peacock feathers. And some people don't really want you to know who they are, because when the feathers fly, you know it without a doubt. This is essential as we imagine what we have to do in this fight. Imagine what it would be like to be fighting with somebody who is a coworker, when at the end of the day, you don't have the same tally, the same mindset, the same idea of what success would be. Imagine other jobs operating the way this can happen. That is why it is so pivotal that we have Vice President Harris, and then Governor Walz, and then a Democratic Senate and Congress, because they've already shown, the other side has shown what happens when they take totality. Something that was said to be the law of the land and untouchable was removed. They looked into cameras like I'm looking at you now and said, President Obama cannot appoint a Supreme Court justice in his last year. And if that happened to us, we would give the same reverence to not doing it in the last year. And then they got the same opportunity and lied to our faces. We've got to get very clear about what it means to be able to stand up and speak for our mothers and our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers, for our nieces and our nephews, our cousins, and those people in our families who've gone through the system whose votes have been eradicated. I am a native of Washington, D.C., not the DMV, the city itself. And I've been engaged in politics since I was 10 years old, and have worked on campaigns since I was 17, because I would be of voting age by the time the election happened. Being from New Jersey, we just sent a powerful Black woman representing the 10th district to the House, to the Congress, representing our state, and we will probably be sending an Asian man to represent us in the Senate. So we understand what it means to push and stand soundly in our voices. We have to stop playing with the idea that people may not vote against us. We have to be just because we have different viewpoints. This time they're voting against you. Tonight, your voice and your vote is on the line because democracy is on the line. Be very clear about that. He has said, this is the last election you will have to vote in if you vote for me. That is saying I will restructure the system. And how do we know that? Because he did the same thing with Roe versus Wade. How do we know that? Because they said they wouldn't do a certain thing with the Supreme Court, and they did it anyway. So be very mindful of what is happening here. And in case you're not sure, let me take this little thing I wrote down. Make America Great Again suggests that when women couldn't vote and stayed in their place, that when blacks weren't so uppity and stayed in their place, when Latinos came to America and changed their names and blended in and stayed in their place, and that when LGBTQ folk were closeted and silent and stayed in their place, when people were crammed into societal boxes, that was great for someone. But none of those people are listed. But marches and rallies and voices and votes have shown America that as a country, we shine biggest and brightest when our people stand tallest. And I want to ask you to ruffle some feathers of some of your family and friends and bring up politics and religion. Why? Why so? Why, preacher? Because a huge component of the people we are dealing with are stuck in this place called undecided because they are so lost in the social media dribble. They are so lost in not just the news anymore, but commentators and blogs and podcasts and people saying stuff like, he gonna give me another stimulus check. And then you say on camera, he didn't do that stimulus check. And they go, well, what am I voting for him for? Well, if that's all you had, what were you voting for? Because there's some people who think he's gonna make it rain for them like he did for his sons and his daughter, while he was sending money to Mar-a-Lago and Bedminster, while he was making deals that was only to his benefit, not even for a certain public, for him and rich people like him whose tax brackets shrank. Be very clear what this is about. Be very clear that we've got to get clear about getting to business because there's some people who don't understand. And we as a people know what it's like to have to do the work sometimes to educate for. We had to do it with LGBTQ rights. We had to do it with marriage equality. Well, we're going to do it with democracy because they don't teach government in school no more. So help them understand what is on the line. Please help me. Please help me help somebody. Help people understand the lies and the lunacy versus, wait for it, the facts. Help people, help brothers and sisters. Help people understand that she went to Howard University. She advocated for less sentencing when it came to drug charges. And while some 1,900 cases came across her desk, only 45 people served jail time. I want you to help people understand that she is serving ferociously in the White House. And I just want her to be able to move her personal furniture from the Blair House to the residence. That's why there's one choice for us. That's why we must be very clear that when they struggle with the idea of a woman leading the greatest nation in the world, they say that we are catching up in history because in Africa, in Asia, and across the globe, this has already happened. How many presidents have we seen stand with Angela Merkel? How many of us remember Margaret Thatcher? We're so great that we have to catch up with people who've been doing this already. And if anybody can save America from herself, a Black woman can. Boom.
I mean, what do I say? I was over here yesing and shouting. You said so many things. Y'all want her to move her personal furniture too. I'll help. I will help you move.
I've helped many a friend move. I'll help her.
Right? Oh my God, that was great. That was amazing. So many touch points you touched on about the facts and ruffling feathers. You know, it took me back to a line from Paris Brand where she talked about feathers, right? So that thing about feathers and ruffling those feathers within the family, because we are told, let's not talk about politics, let's not talk about religion.
Because when you ruffle those feathers, you can tell who you're flocking with.
Yep, yeah. No, you. Thank you, Bishop-elect Taylor. Let's bring up Earl, see what Earl has to add.
What do you add to that? It was a history lesson, but you made several points that occurred to me we don't teach our young people social studies or history at all.
No.
And I had the opportunity of having my nephew, who was 17 years old. I took him to the African American Museum. He lives in Georgia. And we went through, and he said, I know about the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, and 15th Amendment. And I said, well, you're going to exercise the 14th Amendment, because when you're 18 years old, if I have to go down to Georgia, I'm going to register you to vote. He went to register his vote. His mother took him, and they've already made a plan to going to vote. He's going to vote Democratic. I made him promise he's voting Democratic. We have to get our young people.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about the key to the election. The key to the election is having our youth vote. We've not talked about them very much.
And we have to understand that we are talking about a young population of people for whom many, this will be their first election, and they did not have government. So they think the president's supposed to change things. She's in the White House. Why doesn't she change? Do you understand that? So I want young people to understand it from this vantage point. When Keke Palmer is shown a photo, and she said, I don't know this man. I don't know who this man is. She was talking about a man who at the time was vice president. Right. So young people in this country almost don't know anybody beyond.
And older people don't know who the vice president is either until now.
Until now, so they don't even know. So the idea that we get to sit and, as you're talking to your young nephew and imploring him, that you also get to empower him. I thank God to this date that my son's first election was for President Barack Obama, and we stood in the line for 3.5 hours for him to vote, only to realize that I had not changed my voting from the last place we lived. So we had to go there and stand another 3 lines. He then had to go to school because he was in culinary school. And when I picked him up, we got home, walked in the door. I turned the TV on at 11 o'clock and they made the announcement, and he had gone to bed, and he woke up and said, Dad, he won. Like, Dad, he won. Like, my voice did something. My vote did something. It wasn't just cheap t-shirt talk. It worked. It meant something to him.
It's so important. It's so important that we do this with our young people. Absolutely. My grandmother, when she voted, I'm not going to say what year it was, I went with her to the polls when I was 5 years old. And she told me, she made me promise her when I was 5 years old that I would vote every election. And I've missed one election. And I think it was school board of the town I lived in, the township I lived in New Jersey, because I made that promise to Granny, and Granny made me promise. She goes, Junior, you got to vote. And I'm like, why? What's voting? Why do I have to vote? She goes, because that's going to keep our people free.
That's going to keep our people free. I vote so much that the woman I spoke of, now Congresswoman Monica McIver from Newark, New Jersey, from the 10th district. I'm in the 8th district. I called, they said, no, you get to vote. And then I was like, wait, I think I'm in the 8th district. So I went to the poll anyway, and I wasn't the only one to show up. And we couldn't vote because it was outside of our district, but we were there anyhow.
Right. Yeah.
So I want to be active. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Yeah, this is wonderful. That was a great. Thank you. All right. So I mean, I was sitting here thinking, you can bring Earl up. I didn't know, right? When I got the call and was asked to put this call on, I didn't know it was going to be as powerful as this call was, as this conversation was, to hear from all these individuals. I didn't know, right? And I'm sitting here, and every time I'm off camera, I'm just like, oh wow. Sometimes you just gotta just follow, like, right? You just gotta follow, and I'm glad that I have the support system. I have folks like you, Earl. I have the community that I was able to call on to come and be here. This was an amazing call. Go ahead, Earl. I feel like you're going to say something, and
I can't say anything because I remember years ago, my father's a minister. And years ago, I went to a church and they had like a marathon. They had like 6 or 7 ministers speaking in a row. They each had 10 minutes to speak, and they all did this in 10 minutes. Every speaker hit a point that the other speakers didn't make. Every speaker, and it tells me, and I hate to be corny about this, but this is when the Spirit flows, it flows.
It flows.
And the Spirit was flowing tonight. And let's hope it flows to November 5th. To those people who are sitting around and halfway in the midday and like, I'm not going to vote because it's raining or it's going to rain or it's cold. Let the Spirit flow to these hearts and minds of these people. Everyone who can vote. Call someone who's older. Ask if they need a ride. And be careful in some states that it's against the law. And some states it's against the law to give water out to people waiting in line. But know the law, but take someone to the polls. Take someone to the polls. That's all I have to say.
That's really.
I could have said these people, these pastors, these faith leaders, our community is in good hands, faith-wise and spiritually wise.
Yes.
It's good to be. It's good to know that, to have that confirmed.
Yes. I just want to say, yes, I agree. This was great. Thank you all for coming. Thank you everyone that watched. Thank you everyone that's gonna be watching later. Because the spirit was moving definitely tonight. Like I was here in the house by myself, like shouting and carrying, yes, doing what I do in church. Like this was. They took me to church. We had service tonight, and it was.
Now you have to go to church.
I do want to say before we close an official thank you to you, Chairman Fowlkes, for your leadership, for your presence at the Democratic National Committee, to making sure that Black LGBTQ folks, individuals, have a space, are heard, allowed myself to be there and take part of it, and bring my husband along with me, which when Reverend Carmarion mentioned that earlier, on Anderson-Harvey mentioned that, I was just like, I was one of those that benefited from the marriage equality being signed, right? Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for always fighting for community. Thank you to Reverend Jeffrey Campbell. Thank you to Bishop Allyson Abrams. Thank you, Bishop Stephen Sawyer. Again, thank you, Reverend Carmarion D. Anderson-Harvey. And last but not least, thank you, Bishop-elect Kevin Taylor, for rounding us out. What's interesting is like this wasn't the original flow that I had, but things happened. I had to make some changes.
It's called spirit.
It just turned out so well. Like the way everyone just went out was just so perfect. Thank you all for joining us once again. Don't forget, on Sunday we're having the Black LGBTQIA phone bank for Harris-Walz. This was going to be a time for all the Black LGBTQ folks to come together, right? And we're going to get on a Zoom. We're going to talk. We're going to get trained by the DNC. It's not just going to be me rambling. We have official DNC staff coming on to train us. You don't have to worry about your phone number. We're going to be using an auto dialer. We're going to show you to do that. All you need is an internet connection. You just have to have your computer or your cell phone. Come, have fun with us. Let's laugh, talk. To register for that, all you have to do is visit the website, the same one that you visited to sign up for this, CBE Political Action Fund.com. Go ahead, register. Once you register within the DNC platform, you'll get the email. This is a partnership with the Capital Ballroom Council's House Lives Matter. Reason why we partner with them, because we want to make sure we're getting everybody, right? We want to make sure we're reaching and bringing younger folks, older folks, make sure we're reaching everybody to have this moment to activate and call some folks in those swing states. There's going to be a Black LGBTQ person going to hear one of us on the other line and realize that, oh, yes, there's people out here that are really fighting. This is important for us to get out of here. We're going to even give you the script, right? So you don't have to do anything. Take the script and make it your own. Join us. And of course, on election day, if you haven't already cast your vote, if you haven't mailed in your ballot, get out and vote. In 25 days we have? Get out and vote. We have a few days later. I want to go ahead. Earl, do you have any closing thoughts? Closing statement?
No, this has been wonderful. There's been everything that needed to be said has been said.
Absolutely. All right. So once again, I'm going to thank you, Reverend Dr. Jose Miguel Roman, for joining us, starting us off in prayer. I want to go ahead and hand it back over to you to close us out with prayer.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. So dear brothers and sisters and spiritual siblings, as we close this evening, let's once again pray together. If you feel comfortable, please close your eyes, bow your heads, and bring into your mind and heart the sacred, the divine of your understanding, and surrender. Dear God, Master of love and truth, we thank you for this evening's frank and powerful conversations, and for this opportunity to share and plan to act in the name of justice and human dignity. We thank you for bringing us together in a spirit of action. We acknowledge that the work of justice is difficult, slow, and hard, but the rewards are abundant and life-affirming. We know, sweet Lord of love, that our work in the coming weeks is necessary. It is urgent, and it is holy work. United in action, we leave tonight confident in this faith community's commitment and our people's power, magnified by the unity of our purpose. We are unwavering in our commitment to ensuring the victory of truth over lies, justice over inhumanity, equity over greed, dignity over prejudice, peace over war, and love over hate. Please help us, sweet Spirit of justice, as we work to bring all our people to the polls on November 5th. Let us ensure the success of Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz, so that come January, this nation will have the leadership to serve the needs of justice, equity, ecological sustainability, basic human decency, domestic unity, and global peace. Our collective action, fueled by our shared commitment to justice, can perfect this imperfect democracy over time, mend this broken country, and bring healing and unity to this fractured world. This is our faith, inspired by our love for each other and your unending love for us. We ask all this in your holy name as we say together, Amen, Ashe, and so it is. Good night, everyone.